What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. I gotta mute my mic real quick and plug it in. Damn it. Crypto in the morning every day. Dang it. I'm sorry, guys. I love you. It's still not plugged in. There she goes. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What a way to ruin a show. It's your boy GRC. Or is that an algo pump? That's called framing switch. That could be a nice algo pump for the little switch up. Guys, it's your boy GRC. We're live every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern, with my co-host Sam Stolt, Bullish Ox producer. We're going hard every day teaching crypto, learning crypto, getting involved with the numbers, with the websites, with the developers. That's what we like to do. I don't like to sit there and hypothesize so much about what other grown men are doing with their free time. Not my favorite thing to do personally. I like to learn. And there's a lot of super dope information, people building websites. We're going to be looking at hexmodel.com. Sam, we're also going to be discussing, I had one question. I said, okay, I'll answer this question. How to avoid impermanent loss and what to think, and how to approach the thinking process of it. Because I think people use that word as a little direct. Somebody asked me this question. I don't remember what the exact question was, but the way I rephrased it in my head is how to avoid a permanent loss. And what does that really mean? So we're going to cover that one more time too, because people ask those questions a lot, Sam. And they'd be asking in my DMs if I can do phone calls. And so I'm like, let's just talk about it online. So, I don't want to give anyone financial advice, nor am I a financial advisor, but I will discuss game theory between things that are already hosted on the internet that anyone can freely use. And so we're really excited. We're going to be talking about that. HSI auctions are going to be a big part of it. We had a Maxim broadcast guest yesterday. Incredible. So good. So he posted a video about this very website, giving a little 6-minute review. And he dropped some nasty little details in there that he might have should have just kept to himself, if I'm just being frank. And I'll eat those up for lunch. But guys, crypto in the morning every day. We got DeFi proof. If your kids are around, tell them to get their ears out, do a little dance or something. You know what I'm saying? Crypto in the morning every day, 11.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hex and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning. 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 Crypto in the morning.
Yo. Good to see you. Hey, did you know that Walmart started selling ASIC miners, right? So these are the BTC miners. Very interesting. And not what we're going to be talking about, but a little bit of information for people out there. This is going more mainstream, right? That you can buy a miner from Walmart.
What do you think about that? Long-term for Bitcoin, not necessarily mining hardware. But long-term for Bitcoin, does that seem non-important, or do you think that's something that could legitimately change their dynamic of scaling?
I think that if that can increase the number of people involved, because now they're on Walmart.com, sellers are selling them there, and I would mine Bitcoin, because I would like to learn what that experience is like. I would mine Monero, right? Or I would mine also for ETHW. I would like to learn all of these things because I don't know. And I think that going through the action of doing that is probably the best way to do it. Plus, when you think about how people think about things, if you can go through and buy a $6,000 or $10,000 miner, and that generates you, say, $100 a month, right, or $200 a month, there's plenty of people that would be like, hey, wait, I can put in $6,000 and get $100 a month. That's like a rental property, right? But you don't have to deal with the management of the tenants. You don't have to deal with the property manager. You don't have to deal with the repairs. You don't have to deal with, are they going to pay? Are they not going to pay? Right? You just plug your shit in and you pay. You have to pay attention to it, right? But if you can put in $6,000 and print $100 a month in BTC, that's very compelling to a lot of people, right? Versus trying to,
especially if they turn it into some marketing campaign. Like that would be the thing. Like if it went international marketing, somebody would have to want that to occur, and that's where I get a little bit like, who really wants that to occur really bad? Like we'll put their whole life, I mean, industry like future on the line to develop towards that kind of marketing. I think that's scarce, and I think there's easier ways to do it. But hey, I don't know shit, you know.
Oh, no, I agree with you. But think about when I try to tell somebody about liquidity providing, right? And you can take $6,000 and you can earn $1,500 a month, right? Like that seems implausible. That seems highly unlikely to a lot of people. But sure, bro. When you tell somebody that you can buy a miner and like you're trading the miner for income, that narrative or story is like something that a lot of people understand more because they're like, hey, I buy a rental property and it prints money for me, right? That narrative is easier for people to grasp than liquidity provider. Because
they're like, well, the house goes up in price, and you're like, yes. And people can rent out the house. Yes. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. There's like a use case in the middle, right? But there is a use case, and being an exchange is the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's a pool of money that goes up in that will up and down in value at whatever rate, but you can earn fees, and you're earning fees instead of having to go to real estate school and be a little plut. I should not be saying all that. I don't even think that's true. I just was going to say something stupid, but I didn't really believe it. Real estate agents are cool, I guess. But the whole point is like, why should I go to school with the bed with their debt? I can just park my money in an LP pool, get a lot of that decentralized yield. And the only learning curve is here because you must study these things to a degree.
Do you want to talk about the LP and the permanent loss before we get into the hex model?
Well, yeah, no, I think it might be best. I think it might be best. I think it might be best, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's not really like want to show people this. I show people the darn explainer video all the time, and it just does not. It hits for the guys that are almost there, but it doesn't hit for the guys that are clueless at all. And I'm not saying that that's normal, bro. Like that's crypto. Like
it's not like me. It's just.
But I want to talk about it like normal ass people for a second. Like we're just like guys. I'm not a rich dude. Nor do I care right now. I have business stuff I'm trying to work on. I'm moving forward. But I want to talk to you about the facts, just what goes on within the liquidity pool instead of all the other stuff. Because that's I try to kind of cut through it for people so they can because everyone else is going to tell you a load of garbage. Not everyone, but you know what I mean? They're not going to sit there and tell you, frankly, this is not as complicated and technical as people want to make you feel like it is. Because they want to make you feel like providing liquidity is like a miracle, like you need to be a statistics god or something like this. I never went to jack diddly nothing for any of that in school. It's literally clicking buttons and paying attention a little bit and parking your money, being emotionally fit and paying attention. And that's it.
And I'm actually doing a test right now. So one of the people are always like, oh, I'm scared of impermanent loss, right? Well, that's like being scared of like you chose to watch the show. So you're scared. It's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's like, yeah, your girl or whatever will pull on a show and it's like, everyone's in a good mood. And then it's like whatever horror stuff's on there. And then they get all upset about the show. Yeah. If you clicked on the show and you chose the show and there was 100 other pairs in there and you chose that one. And I'm not saying it's a bad show. And this isn't a real example. I'm just kind of like spitting off the top. And now you're in a bad mood because of it, which I could have sat there on my phone and told you that was going to happen 100 times over. But what's the point? The point is nobody actually knows what they want. Nobody knows what they want. Like, I'm like, guys, we get to really be like, no, because I have no idea what I want in this world. And I'm like, I know what I want in this world. I want hexahedron and icosa up. I want Zen up. I want my BNB bag long term up. Like, all the stuff that I hold. Like, I would hope that I had more coins at the end of the day, right? Like, that's all I want. The number for me, and this is just me at this point in my life, because I have so little overhead that it's actually kind of like I get bored. But again, I'm making moves. Don't get it twisted. I'm paying attention. So it's just important that we understand what we want before we go into liquidity provider.
So you had mentioned very briefly the total number of tokens, right? So the idea, let's define how normal people define impermanent loss, right? If you provide liquidity between A and B, and A, this is assets, right? So this is any crypto that you like, and any crypto that you like. Maybe it's Ethereum and USDC, maybe it's Hex and USDC, whatever you want to provide liquidity in. First, if you have these two assets, if you hold these two assets, maybe you hold Ethereum and maybe you hold Hex, are you going to hold those in your wallet? If the answer to that is yes, then you can provide liquidity and earn money on your money just sitting there doing diddly squat. First,
I'm going to piss some people off real quick with that exact point that you just said. You said Hex and ETH, right? Now, 99% of really diabolical clinical investors in this world would be very happy if their Hex bag sloshed into ETH. But really, the Hexicans are scared of losing that derivative asset to the actual asset that has real liquidity, and that means they have no money. I'm just talking in financial terms. Like, this isn't my play, but I'm saying, like, as a liquidity pool, if you have 30 million Hex and you provide liquidity with 10 million of that, and that all goes to Ethereum, you're in a great position. And that's what people don't get. But you have to know that beforehand. You have to have that double back. Like, I'm like, a big bag of Ethereum is lit. Don't forget it. But you don't have to ride every crypto like it's your little piggy bank account. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying like within like $10, $100, but like every crypto, put it away, make a move with it, pay attention to the detail. If that's what you want to do. And if not, just buy the damn asset and sit there and go home.
And so on the coin count issue, I'm testing this out to see if there is any validity to this. If there's any validity to this, right? The idea is that you have A and B. A goes up relative to B, and now you're left with all of the B, the underperforming asset, which means you could have had that. And because you have money in an LP position, you have the lower performing one and you chose to earn fees. Now, what if you use the fees to buy more of the asset that you prefer? I'm doing exactly that with a bag, documented, right? I know how much I put into it in terms of coin count. And when the fees are earned, I pull the fees and I buy the asset that I was like, let's see if I can beat this coin count with this bag just from fees. And I'm,
I bet you can do it pretty darn quick, couple months, like boop, boop.
But that completely negates impermanent loss then. If I can do this,
but we're not going down that route. Yeah, that's true.
It completely negates it.
100% that's true. Just like when I said, guys, so I'm into Zen, I spent a few $100s or whatever. And then I bought a little bit of Zen on the bottom. And then, and then it went up a little bit. If I had sold 10% of that at the time or whatever, I'm done for life. I never paid for Zen in my history of my life. That's impermanent gains forever. But people will get too slippery with it. They won't be clinical enough with their long-term holds. And that's what they just aren't, man. There's too much volatility. They can't handle it. I'm not afraid to go to zero. I like going to zero. It actually sparks my ass up a little bit. If you want me to be quite honest, when someone gives me like $3,000 or something for the month, I'm like, damn it. Like, I wish I had a little something I was supposed to someone steal something from me so I can feel like I got to get it. Cause that's how I am, Sam. Like, when I'm down bad, I do the best, but sometimes I get a little fat and happy too. Like, if you know what I mean. And it's quick. It's like all my needs are met. Right. So everything after that, you have to be very clinical about the way you want to that's why I was telling like people, you have to know what you want. And I don't want necessarily money right now. I want more coins right now. That's for me. Like, I just want my coin count for like the 3 or 4 cryptos I have overall to be heading in that upward direction. And I will not let them go down. And once they start to actually go down, I will stop completely and just let it ride. I'll just, peace out. I'm not the best at everything. I don't make perfect timing calls. I'm going to let this ride till the bull and just maybe move on. Maybe the gas fees are getting out of hand. Maybe things are getting a little crazy, but it's important to know what you want. Sam knows directly what he wants when he wakes up. He's like, I want to make an LP move today. I'm going to study a few pairs. I'm going to see which one has volume. That is what liquidity providing is, unless you're like really big in one asset in particular, then change the dynamic a little bit.
Liquidity providing, there's so much opportunity. Think about this for a second. Legacy and crypto, that we have these conversations between these two things, and we're going to get into the hex model. But legacy, right? There's some big differences between these, like transparency and stuff. But what is a gigantic, enormous effing difference that has never been around before, other than some of these basic things, these other pieces that we talk about? In legacy, I could not be a part of liquidity. I could not earn fees from liquidity, and I could not see all the aspects of liquidity in real time, 24 hours a day. Everybody, think about this. Everybody talks about a specific token. Hey, the tokenomics of XYZ is great. Hey, doing this development over here. Hey, the roadmap of this is cool. Hey, these things are integrating over here. And not as many people as I feel should be are talking about liquidity, because that's the
and I think they are, Sam. I think we're in a very nuanced pocket, Sam. I want to remind you, because just to like perspective it up again, like liquidity providing between anything but ETH and Bitcoin and stables for a legitimate investor is very rare. But we're young and like in the thick of things and like willing to speculate and lose a little bit, willing to lose a 10 grand swing without really having to feel like my life is over kind of deal. And it's important to understand that most people would think about these liquidity providing opportunities as an absolute joke. And I mean that with utmost respect. You can make a lot of US dollar doing it, frankly, but that's not the point. I'm talking about legit, like big Ethereum investors coming into because they don't have all the control, nor do they really want all the control, because they feel like they don't feel like some of these derivatives have the same real value as USDC and ETH and Bitcoin. And they love gains, but they're not willing to speculate on someone else's dream to earn but I've told you, and we've learned together, and everyone's talked in, and we've had insight on these specific little ecosystems. But understand how kind of nuanced that feels like in the big scheme of things. So we are the first people, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And you're used to doing that, bro. Like, yeah, you're always doing that. Like with the semaglutide, all the stuff, man. Like, that's just how we kind of roll, and getting that dirty little information before it goes to the mainstream. Because sooner or later, me and Sam will get wrecked from they'll say you can't provide LP the same way you used to, and we'll just pull our stuff out. Hey, that was a good run. Like we made a boatload. Like we'll just go liquid for a while and figure out how they kind of change the dynamic. Because let's be honest, that's probably going to occur, whether that's 5 years or 1 year or 20 minutes. Who could know? But if you know about V3 Uniswap liquidity providing right now, and you understand it intimately, you're at a large advantage within the crypto.
You're just getting bread every day. So here's the interesting thing. I just did the math here. So I'm just percentages wise. So you have, say, 5 grand, 25 grand, whatever that number is. I'm earning over 1% a day, right? So it's actually like 1.76 actually is what the actual number is. 1.76. So 1.76 per day, right? So that means in about 60 days, I make all my money back, right? And then you go like, okay, let's go 65 days to make sure my coin count goes up. Then I just have a free whatever my bag was. Like, these numbers are crazy. And again, at 5, 10, 15, 30, 100 grand, probably possible when you're doing millions.
It's important to understand that the emotional workload that it takes is enough alone to get most people not to want to do it. But Sam really doesn't have that part of him where he's like, oh man, this workload is like wrecked. It's just not in him. Like he likes a hard workload. He would probably wish it was a little more dense, to be quite honest. Like so he could get a better advantage, because it is a little. Once you get in there, you're like, damn, people are going to be getting in here. because on Cake Sam V2 liquidity providing before all of this kind of craze was going on. I mean, the gains that were made, Sam. I mean, you would cry from the gains people were making on $45 LP positions from like day 1 and 2. Ends up being like 700 grand like in a year, and you're just like, okay, life is wrecked. Like, you know, but it's real liquidity and it's not fake. And now we can see Binance for what it is, and it gets lots of volume. We're gonna switch it up on a hair, boom, just like that. Answered the question. I think at least we're gonna talk about that pretty much like all the time. So hexmodel.com, guys. All the information is in the website. I mean, is in the description below. I already put it down there for this Dev Huey, his name. And that's who created this.
Welcome back to the
Dev
channel.
Huey.
I wanted to show you guys.
And I just reached out to him this morning. I said, hey, I'm looking at your website. It's cool. And I'm like, I'm trying to like link Sam up with dudes so they can like make magic and I can get all the credit for it. And like, you know, I just talk to these devs because I love giving feedback on like front ends and stuff too. It's really fun. I'm not going to lie, because it gives you a reason to be like addictive about looking at something while you're being nice. So it's fun for us little addict rabbits around here. So guys, I'm just going to start this off right here. Or this is my man's. Yesterday he came on the show, dude. This dude's the man. And we talked in depth. They didn't act boastfully smart. We all had insightful, but also confusing ways to like. It was confusing, but it was good. By the beginning of it, we were all bearish on ICOSA. At the end of it, we were all bullish on ICOSA. It was really, you know what I mean? Like thinking of the scenarios in which things could occur with that low liquidity. I'm telling you, Sam, someone is thinking about that, and someone that's not talking is thinking about that, and someone that's involved in the project is thinking about that, and there's a reason. Why wouldn't they just put some money in there? These guys are loaded. Because they want it to be explosively volatile on the upside, but then have no reason to sell on the downside. For big sellers. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about the HSI auctions. So this is a good way to introduce, because we're going to be looking at an HSI tool. Hex Market. Damn it. What is it called again? Hexmodel.com. And I dropped that. It's all below everything. This is our boy. We had a stream yesterday. If you're really interested in some of those Hex, ICOSA, Hedron, Poly kind of intertwined talk, we did it like an hour and a half on it. It was explosively awesome with Crypto Sloth and my man Maxim. But we're going to play this, Sam, and I'm just going to let it run through. And I will play it back if you think if there's any parts, because he gets into some stuff, but I don't want to stop it up. But if I will go back, it's just a short guy. So let's play this. Biceps in the chat for my man. And I will drop this link too. Dang, I forgot to drop this link in there too. So I'll put this in the chat as well. And down below, this is my boy.
Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to show you guys a very useful tool for those that are looking at considering buying Hex basically in the HSIs coming up for liquidation on getting November 13th. This particular tool was created by dev_Huey on Twitter. He has a link right here to this tool that I'm talking about. I'll also share it on the bottom of this video as well. And I want to talk through this with you guys. This is pretty awesome. So you can basically look at this and organize things however you want. You can use these scroll bars here to organize by the size of the hex in the stake, the stake days. You can also click on, let me make this bigger. You can also click on, I'm gonna try to move myself here. You can also click on up here is basically the Hedron multiple. So for example, this 10x is a 10x Hedron multiple. So for the same amount of shares HSI created today, you're gonna get 10 times more Hedron for the 10x multiples. And you can click on that and it will auto pull in all of the 10x multiples. And you can look down at the bottom right here and see there's 410 HSIs with the Hedron bonus, and you can organize those further by clicking on staked hex, for example. And you can see that the biggest 10x HSI bonus, there's over 5.5 million hex stake. And I want to talk through something before I go into more cool things you can see from this page. I want to give you guys an idea of what the minimum bid is for these. The minimum bid is forced for these auctions, and how you figure that out, what the minimum bid will be, like, 'cause like maybe you want, like me, maybe you want 5.5 million more hex in your portfolio. Wouldn't that be awesome? But how do you know if you have enough Hedron to even start the bid for that? Is, I guess, a basic question that I would have. And I'll try to show you guys. Basically, all you got to do is know the number of T shares. So it's 792. So you go over here, 792 T shares times 1,000 times the amount of days that it's staked for. So this is staked for the max length. So we'll go 5555. And it comes up with, let's see how big this number is. Let's make it even bigger. This is 4.4 billion, basically. So the minimum bid, if I did that right, I think I did, is 4.4 billion Hedron will be the starting bid for this HSI. You basically just take this T shares, times it by 1,000, times it by the stake length in days. If that makes sense. And I think that's going to be the minimum bid. And of course, they're a bid, so they can be bid up for them from there easily. And they probably will be for I would expect this one to be, just because it's so visual and easy to find. But yeah, that's the starting bid. And I want to show you guys what else that I think was really useful here. One of them was the interesting fact that if I go by staked days, let's see if this works here. Let me restart this page really quick, refresh it to show you this. I'm curious too, by the way, how well this page is going to load during the auctions. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of demand for it. But you can do your research now before people try to use the bejeebers out of this thing. So I wanted to organize by staked days because that was kind of interesting to me. It was in their best interest to only put through the HSI buyback max length stakes, 5555. But for some reason, people didn't do that. And for example, this guy put in 131,000 hex, only staked for 30 days. That poor guy kind of like really didn't get much ICOSA for that. But the crazy thing about this is that when this is bid on, the stake's over. So for example, if this is worth, I don't know, $5,000 in hex at the time of the auction, if you bid $4,000 worth of Hedron for it, you instantly can sell the hex for $1,000. I'm not saying that you should, but I'm just saying you have really almost nothing to lose because the hex is liquid. This is different from the other HSIs, which are forced to be locked, basically, for the length of their stake without an emergency end stake. Some of these are unique in that the stake days was so short that there's really no speculation in what's going to happen in the future. You can know that if you bid less value in Hedron, you can immediately get the value out of the HSI. Crazy. And then there is another one in here. This one is in the same position. This one was put in on August 15th, the first day of the ICOSA contract, over 500,000 hex, and it was only staked for 90 days. So that one, when whoever wins the auction, they should be able to just end the hex stake and have liquid 500,000 hex. This is something that I was tempted not to tell people because this is pretty cool, I thought, and I decided to just tell everyone anyway. And yeah, here's another one, 330,000 hex, 180 days. So you've only got a couple months after the auction ends, and you can get the hex out of it. It's pretty crazy. So anyway, guys, you can just play around with this page however you want. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I wanted to make sure that this cool resource was available to you guys and use it how you see best. And I hope that my explanation of how to calculate the minimum bid made sense for you also. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you in the next one.
That's very interesting.
Is there anything you got from that you really liked? I was kind of curious how you would think about that video. I watched it a few times, so I'm kind of like a little bit in the sauce about it.
So yeah, that's a very interesting point here. So like the question I would have is, so the stake days, right? This was staked on August 17th, 10 hex, right? And for 1 day, right? So this means that this stake has not been claimed, right? And it is actually increasing the, it is basically going away, right? So if you don't claim your hex stake, what happens over the course of the next 2 years? If it's not claimed, it goes to the people who do stake, right? So this is going to increasing the yield for hex stakers right here. The first one right here. Same thing with the second one, 2,000 hex, right? For 2 days. And there it's just going to the hex pool. So this is kind of interesting. Or any of these other ones, right? This is the one that he just picked out, right? So we have 131,000 hex was staked for 30 days. Now, the question I would have on here is the 30 days, the totality of the stake, or there's 30 days left. I think it's the totality of it, but I'd have to ask Huey to understand this fully. But it sounds like they just locked it up for 30 days, right? And this is also super valuable from the standpoint that this right here is the T shares. So anybody who's not familiar with this, how many B shares per T share? There's 1,000. And what's the, if we want to figure out the minimum bid, what the minimum bid is for your participation, right? There's a bunch of auctions here, right? So you can figure out what the minimum bid is and then try to buy just really good deals. So for this one, if you take 5.76 like Maxim was doing, times 1,000, because there's 1,000 B shares per T share. Why do you want to know the number of B shares? Because every single B share gives you one hedron, right? And we need to know the amount that was advanced so that we can calculate how much the minimum bid is for this specific one. So 5.76 times 1,000 is 5,760, right? And then the total length is 30 days. So the minimum bid on this one would be 172,800, right? So 172,800 ICOSA, or 0.000054, I think, or 38, we'll call it for hedron price. So about 65 cents worth of hedron can potentially, think about this, could potentially, that's the minimum bid. I don't think this is what's going to, I think it's going to sell for higher than this, but the minimum price is about 65 cents worth of hedron for 131,318 hex. Hex at 4 cents, that's a $5,200 for this, right? There's going to be some opportunity here to really like get some.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I'm I kind of worried ish, not really worried, I guess wouldn't be the right word, but like, what if nobody does this and then the rich dudes just get all their shit for 66% on the dollar because it's just a little flat, and it's just, but I'm not saying that's not good for the system. Like, probably only a net benefit at some rate, but I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I have not a clue how people are going to interact with this, because it's getting a little down the rabbit hole. People definitely just don't know that much about this shit anymore.
Yes.
I know that I have to stick with it, And that most things after a month or 2 or 3, you can just not passively kind of pay attention to. This is not one of those things. With the interaction of 4 different derivative products within an auction pool that have metrics for each one kind of individually, but based on the T-share kind of rate for the overall ecosystem, it's very hard to calculate, nor impossible. But so you really just have to look at these liquidity pools, really. You have to look at where this money really is sitting and where people are going to extract real value and where people are going to lock away real value into the system more. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I'm kind of seeing like how many more people want this stuff at the end of the day. I know a lot of people want Hex, probably. But how many people really care about holding any of these HSIs or putting in more in the future? That's where I get a little tongue twisted. It's like, who's going to go to Hedron.pro and do an HSI? I'd be really curious to know how many people have done that in the last week.
Well, I've been tracking the number. It continues to go up daily.
It really does. So that's what I would be looking for. And like, I really would just be looking for that metric alone. And if that metric is trending upward, I would be excited.
So that's what I've been following, because I'm on the similar, thought process there, where if people are continuing to sell HSIs to the ICOSA contract, and this has been the case for the last 90 days, then shit is going to continue to, we're going to continue to have these auctions, which is going to be bullish for Hedron. Now, from a bidding standpoint, right, one could go through and say, let's just take this one that we have pulled up here, for example, right? So if Hex is at 4 cents, then this position here, this one position, has a $5,200 value. Immediately, you should be able to end your stake and take the value of Hex and just sell it in the marketplace for $5,200 and $52. So let's just take off 100 off the bat for end stake fees and then selling into USDC, right? So let's say it's $51.50. Now, you could go in there and you could
I didn't mean to do that. Do you want your screen back up?
No, that's good.
Okay.
So that one is worth $5,100. So you know how much it's worth right away. So these ones could be the most efficient ones here, right? Meaning like they actually go to the highest value possible, which is $5,100, because people are like, oh, there's an ARB there, and the ARB is immediate. If the ARB is in the future, you have to take multiple steps, you lose people.
Where is the immediate liquidity is what you're kind of like pointing at. Like you're like, where these guys can really exit with a good premium if they must. It's going to be out of that hex pair. It's going to be out of that hex pair if it's legit, because I'm about to show something to people. If you haven't been paying too close attention, this is something that clearly people just don't like to hear, but I don't think it's negative. Excuse me. But the ICOSA USDC main pair has $117,000 in liquidity. That is the highest liquidity pair by a Lions balls or whatever. Okay, so let's go to the second pair. Hex ICOSA, 60,000. Enough to get your stuff into Hex. Enough, barely. 60,000 in liquidity here. And this is V3, guys. So again, and let's go here. Now let's go to ICOSA WE, the native chain, the native token to the Ethereum chain. $2.9 thousand. I have more than that in my sock drawer. I have Sam. There is more money in my sock drawer. I swear to God, not that much more. But my God, I could pee on that chart and it could disappear. And anyone with a pulse in any kind of income of any sort. Because Sam, is this a little bit like? That's why remember you guys keep talking about this downside. And I say the thing about ICOSA that's cool is it's like there is no downside because you can't sell it. Because then they're going to slosh it into the asset they can sell before they sell it for ETH or USDC, because you're going to make more money that way. So it inherently, via the liquidity pools, is going to enhance Hex. I'm staring at that ICOSA Hex pair for these auctions, and I can just imagine.
So what you're saying is this could be more, Hex could just see more sell pressure.
Or Hedron. Well, no, I'm just meaning like people are gonna, yeah.
Potentially, right? By what you're saying,
But it's not,
I
it might not
agree,
change
I
the
agree.
game for Hex, like because of the liquidity not being that intensely dense. But I think it won't make Hex go up. I don't think it'll make Hex go down really. But I'm saying, like, again, sloshing into assets that have less negative downside via their liquidity pools can support you in the same way. Because when people want their gains, they'll go back to these things and then they'll slosh it back. But guess what? People do that with Ethereum and Hex. That's how that started. And then other things came out, and then it starts over there.
I want to explain this to people in a little bit more depth. If somebody owns, say, a decent amount of ICOSA, right, and there's not much ICOSA liquidity, exit liquidity, right?
Ooh, look at that one, Sam.
There's liquidity between Hedron and ICOSA.
217 on that. You can still move your money between Hedron. Hedron has a lot of liquidity, by the way. $2.5 million US on the main pair, which is a lot for a new asset.
But also on the main pair, remember there's that big chunk from Alex that's outside of the market that's not being moved.
Good point.
So, but there is
looking at that's something you can actively look at, which is cool. So, like, look at that.
Yes,
and we'll be looking at that. Like,
so if hypothetically you find yourself in the future where you have a decent sized position, where if you sell that, it destroys the price, or you have to pay a lot of slippage, what GRC is saying, which is literally how everybody does it, you can instead of going through the exit, instead of going through the door, you can go into another asset. So you can take your ICOSA, swap it into Hedron. Hedron has more liquidity than ICOSA, right? So you can go that direction. You can take your ICOSA and go into Hex and then go that direction. Now, if you did Hedron or Hex from ICOSA, there's much more liquidity to sell. So you can easily sell those things off faster than you could if you had a large position in ICOSA.
And I could show you that exact point that you just explained that perfectly for me. Thank you so much. Because let's say I have 100 million Zen here. I'll do a real deal example for you, because I do this all the time. And if you think this is advanced, you're silly. It's not, but I mean, you have to learn it. So like, it's just kind of like something you get a benefit from looking a lot at these numbers. So look, let's say I have 100 million Zen, right? Let's say that's $5,000. I don't know the numbers right now. Zen is brand new, right? Yes. So like, let's look at what I could do with that Zen. I bet you I could get a better deal if I swap to one of my favorite assets rather than the native token. And I will do that. I will capitalize on that. Okay. Because I don't really need the money. It's never going to really go into my bank account. Rarely. It's going to end up going into whatever other asset that I want. So why don't we go over to, let's say, I bet there's a Zen Hex pair in here.
I don't think there's one yet. Zen doesn't have
right here, baby. 50K in liquidity. Must have been a debt up 23 days ago. I guess it just started getting active because it really didn't pop up on the radar yet. I'm sure somebody has been listening to us and maybe thought this could be a good idea. I've been waiting for this, but look at the price, Sam. If you want to come into Hex, if you want to come into Zen right now, and I'm sorry, guys, if this pisses you off, I'm just talking numbers here. If you have a big bag of Hex, let's say you have a redonkulous bag of Hex, you're getting a 401932 rate on your Zen. Let's say that's some big deal to someone with $1 million or whatever. Like, the liquidity is low right now. It's brand new. But you can get in through that pair at a better deal than you probably have USDC too. You're like, well, let me not spend that today, because that's a 30% difference in price. So you're going to save, if you do this on every trade and every interaction you do, you never lose to the slippage market. You never lose to that negative, because you're always looking for the little squeege a deal, and it kind of keeps you up. Like, it keeps that coin count up rather than, how sometimes you can just go big bag of Zen into USDC. You're like, yeah, I'm putting that in the bank. I'm kind of just going to eat it on whatever.
Keep this up here for a second. So let's take a look. That pair, don't click on it, but that pair right there, right? If you see, there's a distinct difference between that pair and the Hex pair. Look at the liquidity. One's 10,000 and one is the one below it. 10,000 and 50,000.
Yes.
Now, look at the volume. The volume is 26,000 versus 2.1 thousand. So not only does the Hex pair have a more available liquidity, but
has less providers.
less trading there. So if you're doing this to earn fees, so I'm going back into our conversation earlier for LP, if you're doing this to earn fees, there's only $2,100 worth of transactions back and forth to earn fees on in the X pool, and you have to split that with a boatload more people versus the Zen ETH pair. There is $10,000 of liquidity with $26,000 of volume back and forth between the pairs in there. So the fees in that pair are going to be much, much, much greater from an LP standpoint, not from an exit standpoint.
And this is exactly how I study crypto. Like, I'm not super worried about everyone's opinion on every single matter. I'm worried about where my large sacks of cash are going to eventually leave this John. Eventually, right? So I don't want to be lingering too heavily in the assets that have billions of dollars in liquidity in a bear run, because it's like, yeah, I'm going to keep some of that. But really, am I looking here to make money? Am I an investor that already has $1 million plus in crypto? No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play until the SEC comes in and ruins my life. I'm going to play on some of these lower liquidity assets with product market fit and cool communities. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, frankly, I could give a rat's shit. I'll just be doing the same shit every day. I don't switch up too much, guys, and I'm pretty much happy with nothing. So it's like, it's all good, guys. I want to pull something up real quick. This is like confusing. Okay, first of all, I want to make a bold statement, but it's not a big deal. I don't even really care about looking at the charts right now because everything's following ETH to a gosh darn pin. And I'm saying, yes, there's more upside, more downside. But if you look at the charts and pull back on all of them, they just look like ETH's chart.
No, yeah.
To a degree, when that buy came in, when that 1,100 to 1,500, 1,600 came in, everything followed that. And you saw that with Bitcoin back in the day, but now it happens a little more like violently with Ethereum too. So it was really interesting, Ethereum making that push, watching everything else pump, and then people giving the good kudos to like all the other projects that didn't do shit, while Ethereum's there like going triple halvening and just like elbowing everyone in the face and making like major big baller moves, in my opinion. I guess like it could be stupid to someone else, but like I think Ethereum's crushing. I think triple halvening was explosive. I think Ethereum could go on such a nasty tear, and some of these coins that we hold could get so disgustingly bullish. Because Ethereum, guys, is the ship. We are just on the ship. We hope the ship goes to the land. It's true, dude. It's true. It's hard to say.
Yes, that is the boat, and we're on the boat. The boat sinks, and we're on the fucking boat.
And we're pulling the stuff, and we're doing all the stuff. We're trying to make it happen. I'm trying to get some good exposure out there. I'm trying to learn Vitalik's work, spread the good word of decentralized finance to the best that I can. And there is resistance. But again, Ethereum's like, bam. That's why I like Ethereum, because it's like every financial investor has heard of Ethereum. Every one of them. I heard about Ethereum when I was 20. I saw it on my phone for some shit, and I was just like, I had no idea what it was, but Litecoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin, I was like, Ethereum, is that some sort of like metal? Like, that's what I thought it was at the time.
The brand awareness here in people's minds, people are undervaluing it, because the brand of Ethereum, the name Ethereum in people's minds, if it's there, it's valuable, because you need to get in here first for people to buy your shit, to buy anything that you want, to think a certain way. They have to get inside of here. And Ethereum is.
And why do people like Richard so much and think he's going to do a good job in the future? Whether you believe that or not, it's because he knows how to make people remember. He doesn't. Maybe it's remember him say PP, or maybe it's remember him. For me, for example, it's remembering him talk about SHA-256 mining when everyone in the room was like, shut up, Richard, shut up, Richard. He was trying to make an amazing point about like why this mining was inefficient. And it was back before all this stuff, like, and they just told him to shut the hell up. And you know what I mean? And it sucks, man. It sucks, because that intellectual integrity, someone could have patted him on the ass at that time and said, this is the type of work you should be doing, boy. You're really good at this, or whatever. I'm not saying he's a boy or anything. You know what I mean?
No.
I want positive vibes, and this show's only going to give more upbeat attention to people. Yeah, I might say someone's name every once in a while. This is just like a little joke, but I'm never going to clinically go into someone's shit anymore. Like, it's just low hanging fruit, bro. Like, I want to look. Vitalik's not low hanging fruit. I want to learn what that verge is all about. I want to learn what the surge is all about. I want to learn what the splurge is all about. I want to know. And maybe one day I can talk to these guys and I'll be like, guys, I've studied this stuff for 10 years. I think I know something about whatever. Things happen if you just work. You just work. You just keep working. I know I can't run out of money. Why? Because I work too hard. People are willing to give me money if I was running out of money because I would work harder. And they'd be like, man, I can't, this kid's going to get something going. Okay, so just keep moving forward, everybody. And what time is it anyway? We got 15 more minutes. Sam, I want to talk to you about Hedron. Wait, what do you want to talk about?
I like liquidity, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me what we're talking about.
What does the chat want to talk about? If you guys have anything in the chat that you want us to cover, we have 10 minutes. Me and Sam are going to talk back and forth. It's Sunday, so we're chilling. I'm not afraid to come on again later, and that's just the way that works. Because I'm all in right now. I cannot stop thinking about crypto. I don't care if I lose all my money. I don't care about anything. I want to get in this shit. I don't care about the bullshit. I don't care about my place in life. I have everything that I need. Everything. By 10, if I needed something, literally my mom would probably help me before I needed anything. Like, and I would never come to that. But like, I have loved ones as well.
I have a.
I want to work.
Yes, dude. Like 100%. I've been working every single day for a couple of years now. People are like, oh, I worked 6 days in a row, or I worked 12 days in a row. Bro, like, level up your shit. Like, do whatever you need to do to achieve whatever you want. That means working 7 days at work, then work 7 days a week. Like,
I'm
you're not
300 days into working every day, all day long, and it just feels like I need more.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God.
See the opportunity in your day, and you're like, fuck, I have opportunity to achieve even greater than what I'm doing right now, and I'm already making progress now, and I can do, and it's not even like it's not even hard.
No.
It's not even challenging.
It's fun, but when you have overhead, Sam, that's when you get perma. Because like, if any dude from college comes in to hang out with me and Sam, they're gonna hate us. Why? Because we have zero real deadly responsibilities where it's like, you have to be here right now or you're dead, which everyone has like 500 of. And that's the thing, Sam. It's like, we're real free. So we're kind of like bring those kind of people here because you can't save everyone, man. If you have 5 kids running around, you're 19 years old, like, bro, was not my bad. You're bad. I'm not saying you can't have a bunch of kids or whatever. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, you got to pay $600,000 this year. It's like, we're not talking LP, bro. It's like, you don't have any money. It's like and so again, think about college. If you have children, please talk to an adult about your child's going to college, not your child. Okay. Don't talk to your child about them going to college. You talk to another adult that has financial experience and real depth and knowledge about the market, and like someone like Sam or something. Ask them real questions about what your child's like. Ask, go back and forth with them, whether you have to pay them or not. Don't make your kid think, Joe, I'm going to feel good for a few years because maybe a girl will touch me at a party and we'll all get drunk for $450,000. I'm sorry. I'm not playing that game.
Well, college is a joke.
I know, but like, people for real don't think that. Like, so it's like, I really want to talk like at some point about that. Because it's like, I say it nonchalant, you say it nonchalant, but it's like, we wouldn't even. Like,
if I was 18 now and finishing up high school, there's this much probability that I would go to school. You don't need school to learn how to live life. You don't need school to learn how to make friends. You don't need school to understand how to do taxes, because these things are not taught there. You don't need school to learn how to make money. You don't need school for fucking anything. What do you need school for? To waste more of your effing time?
Well, they want you to come to their liquidity pool. That's all college is. It's a giant liquidity pool for all the middlemen that work there. So they want you to come and spend all your cash on campus. They want you to come spend all your cash on this. It's just, they're sending you to another street on the same fucking road as a house. They're calling it something else, and they're charging you $400,000 for it. And frankly, the teachers that are working in a lot of these liberal arts schools, I mean, it's disgusting. frankly. When I say liberal arts, I don't mean that liberal arts is bad, but I mean a lot of that nowadays is sloshed out between
Well, we'd have to define what bad is. Is bad just worthless, like sitting around stuffing your thumb up your butt? Like,
well, it means your heart and your brain hurts more after interacting with the situation, whether you know it or not. Like, you're damaged when you go into. I tell people I have to protect myself from other people because they love to latch on to me with negative energies and stay on me like glue. And I'm very gentle sometimes with like certain people, and I get soft on them, and I want to talk. I feel bad for them, but really, they just want me. They're just like, "Why is this kid shining so bright?"
I had a message on Facebook the other day from this dude. I didn't look at his profile or anything, but it's like Joseph is his name, and he's messages me and says something about, "Hey, do you own your own company?" And he's looking for a job or something like that. And he stopped working in March and hasn't had a job since then. And I'm like, bro. And then it was like, why don't you start a company? Why don't you start doing something to make money? And
because he's depressed and hurting, and he can't figure out why or how to get out of his own way.
I'll read you the message that I sent to him, because this is what people need to hear. Like he's saying, "Oh, it's an excuse."
And before you say the message, I think one of the largest problems with this world, and I can't speculate too much on chicks because like I'm not really a chick, okay, unless I'm going with the pansexual vibes. But for real, men are hurting in their soul, and they want to be leaders, and they just want to do what they feel like naturally is inside of them, and they don't know how because no one wants to let them. Like. And it's important that if you're a young man in here and you're just like, what? Am I a leader? Am I anyone? Am I important? You're just as important as everyone else. And you are just as much of a leader as everyone else. And if you do things the right way with respect and dignity, and you give more to others than you give back, you will always internally have fulfillment.
You have to do things. If you want to be that leader, you need to do things in your life. You need to change yourself. You do. If you want other people to think you're a leader, you can think you're a leader as much as you want. If you sit around and play video games all day and don't do anything and whatever.
When your girlfriend dumps you cry about it for 3 weeks. Sam, that one bothers you and me because everyone's had their heart broken, brother. So fuck you, okay? Fuck you that you care more. I used to do this shit all the time. I would call people crying about not crying, but like, what do you think she's doing right now? Where do you think she's going? Who do you think she's with? What do you think's going on? And she controlled me. And all she wanted to do was live her life probably at the time or whatever. I'm talking young, but I see people doing it until they're Sam's age, until they're my father's age, until they're my grandfather's age, until they die. And they can't. 33% of all male problems comes with their interaction with the female species, in my opinion, roughly, because they can't handle it. And the world has told them that everyone's nice and that girls don't steal and guys don't punch and, people don't have sex and you're not going to get screwed over. And the truth is you should get screwed over until you know what the fuck's going on and you can step up. But that doesn't mean you have to hate your life. Like, just get busy. No one's getting busy. So get busy and then you're a leader.
Exactly. You have to take action. You need to change yourself. Everybody wants change, but they think of it as a negative thing when it comes to personal growth. What are your thoughts on ETH POS being OFAC compliant? I think that we're at the very early stages that the government tends to move very slow.
Give a good answer to that for the people, if you really know, because I don't really know the answer to that question. But like in your experience, what do you really think? Little timeline, maybe. Because I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to tell. I see some of these things happening slow. Sometimes they take 5 years, 10 years. But what do you see when it comes to something really hammering down? And what do you see they could potentially do, maybe worst case scenario?
I think what they're going to do, one of the things they're going to do is come after people like us that talk about things like this on the internet, which we already see this happening with censorship. But like in terms of owning the assets and buying the assets, because we're talking about the truth of information, right? Anybody who takes the time to actually see what we talk about understands that I don't give a shit what the F you do with your life. I don't give a shit what anybody else does with their life. I'm going to live my life and I'm going to call it like what it actually is. And they're going to come after those people, right? They're going to change the rules to say that what we're doing, what we're saying is illegal, right? Because that's what they do. First, they try to censor you, right? They will try to shut up the other side of the argument, first of all. When that doesn't work, then they try to change the rules so that they can put you in jail. If that doesn't work, then, you just, Epstein yourself in jail, right? So I think that's going to be kind of like the route of like we see things going, but there's enough people that are starting to wake up and take action in their life that I see this in a positive way. It doesn't mean we can't get a lot worse before it gets better, but there's enough people that are starting to wake. Now, in the case of compliancy with like Ethereum and whatnot, I think the government doesn't have a lot of people who like to take action to, like, they're working for the government, right? It kind of like answers the question right there, but they move slow. Like, I've worked for the military multiple different times in different departments. They move very, very slow. I don't think it would be probably a couple of years before the government starts to catch up with what's going on.
And we're not going to talk about all the lawsuits in particular, because frankly, it's kind of low hanging fruit compared to like the whole landscape. Like, I can't tell what's going to happen with all these lawsuits. Like, what the fuck? Like, who the hell knows what people have to respond and then get in contact and then like get lawyers. It's like, bro, like, I literally had my car smashed into by a drunk driver in my driveway. My brand new freaking Toyota Camry that I stupid buy when I had it, I was buying it. It took me 41 days to get a replacement car. It took me 41 days to receive a check for any kind of insurance. And when I say replacement car, the one that was someone else was paying for other than myself, and I had no job. I had nothing. Like, I had nothing. And I was literally real upset about that shit, but I was never worried about like making it or nothing. Like, it was just like, oh, this sucks, but, so thoughts on Pulse Chain and how decentralized it can get?
It's not
Sam, easy boy. I was about to say the same thing, but seriously though, like, let's talk about that for a second so that we can bring some clarity to that. Let's compare it to Ethereum. Why not?
Yeah, it's going to be more centralized than Ethereum. Like,
it's just centralized between the bros that you like.
Correct, but it is way more concentrated. It is so centralized.
And that doesn't mean in the future that something could not change the game via technology. But until I see some tech specs, like, I don't know what to like. It's a bunch of guys that I know personally, great guys. What can I say? I like a lot of them, and a lot of them got doodly duped on like a lot of their plans for Pulse Chain via Vitalik's big brain, and so it's been interesting this all relies on Vitalik Buterin. I'm sorry. It's hard to like fully, that's how I feel. I don't really think that necessarily could be the truth because I don't know everything, but like without Vitalik, if Vitalik Buterin goes away, everything's fine because there's no updates to everything and everyone can just drop whatever like copies they want. But Vitalik Buterin's workload happens to be better than every other devs on planet Earth. And I don't know that to be like as far as like workload, but like I see this dude talking about more dense information than I can handle at all times. And that means that he's so far ahead that just breathing to him is confusing to others. That is the kind of stuff I like to study for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours because you can level up really quick. But it doesn't mean I ain't going to be knowing what he's talking about full time, but I can know more than what everyone else knows.
Correct.
Because I don't think my bank account's going to get bigger than Vitalik's. It could, but like I doubt it. He's a heavy hitter, so. But I can shoot for the stars, baby. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think Pulse Chain has any decentralized like keynotes to it that I'm excited about, but I'm excited about price appreciation. And that's exactly what Richard Hart has directly advertised all of his products off price appreciation. And whether that bites him in the ass or not, frankly, I don't give a shit because that's not my shit. I didn't make this shit. So like, I don't know what to do. There's $1.9 billion in the sacrifice. There's $20 million in the Hex liquidity pool. I could just shine a big light on that all day long, but I decided not to.
If you care about decentralization, I would go more towards Bitcoin or Ethereum than Pulse Chain, right? Like,
what about Chia? I'm just kidding. I don't know shit about Chia, but I know that's what
there's
they like.
Other
that
projects. Yeah, there's other projects that are far more decentralized than Pulse Chain is going to be, right? Does that mean that they're going to perform better from a financial standpoint? No, not necessarily. But
because liquidity can stay low on some of these chains, Pulse Chain, they know how to keep that shit low. Like they know how to, at least it's going to be a lot of liquidity, but they know how to keep it tight enough where like real price changes can occur, which is really a lot of the marketing within the system. And that could, I don't know if that's allowed like long term, but I don't know if it's not allowed. I don't frankly give a shit because again, I did not build any of this stuff, nor did I try to sell it to you, nor did I try to sell it to anyone. Frankly, I've spent so much money on Hex in the last year that it's like, whatever, like it's all good. But like, let's be real. The lion's share of the people that have made money in Hex bought in the first year, 365 days. I'm going to say this one more time. The lion's share of the people that have, and this could be for other assets too. We're talking about one asset right now. The lion's share, this is a verbatim quote from Richard Hart, by the way, and I have it if anyone wants it. The lion's share of Hex gains is made by people that purchased in the first year. Hex is now 1,071 days old. That's 3x that time. It's relatively normal dilution for that kind of time. Like you could still make good gains on it, but it's just like a lot of these other assets. You're not going to be blown away. Yeah, I guess you could be blown away. But like if you were in Hex day one, you're not going to be blown away with the gains anymore. But you could still, since you bought at such a low valuation, like it's like all profit. So it's important to understand, like, you can buy Hex, but me and Sam were all over Hedron because it had nice liquidity, but it was a derivative and it was newer. Richard Hart told everyone for years directly, you buy new assets with low liquidity. That is how you make money in crypto.
That's one of the reasons I don't own a lot of Hex, but I own a lot of Hedron.
But you would still consider Hex a buy because the liquidity is decent still. If it had 300 million in every pool, you would just be like, whatever. Because this is like, why am I getting involved in this game right now? But that's not the case. You could still get 0.01% of the supply if you have a relatively insane income, which is a lot, right? Like that's a lot.
I mean, if
you need like a couple $100,000 to spend a year, probably
per year, yeah,
or like maybe a year and a half by the lows.
But if you figure that, if you want to say it's $5.6 billion, 1% of that's $56 million. So like, it's you can do it.
You can do it, but like 90% dips might have to be a part of that kind of.
That would be the only way to do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that occurs. Like it actually occurs. Like it really does occur if you pay attention. Like there's people that spent all their money on Hex at 40 cents. You steal that guy's money forever. Until like, a years and a half later when like he figures out what's fucking going on.
Yeah, correct.
You're already like, it's just, he's pissed. And, so I think it's important to remember, like, I like when Richard Hart talks about tech. I don't like when Richard Hart talks about his own stuff because it's like, I just don't want people to talk. Like, it's just like all this stuff with the SEC, all this stuff. Like, I like that Richard's not talking about shit. Makes me feel like he's taking it seriously now. Like before, I thought he felt like he was untouchable. And I feel like the truth is like, not even close, buddy. You're very touchable, super touchable. And I believe that to be certain just from what I know about people and what I've seen. Frankly, people get attacked, whether that's drugs or like petty felonies for weed or like dude has a gun in his car and they put him away for 40 years. 40 years. Sam, if you get caught with one gun and you have a felony, that's a minimum 5 years. If there's a second gun in your house or you use that gun again for another offense, 40-year minimum. And it's a little nuanced pocket they play in there to get you on a second gun because they try to get these they know you got more than one gun. So they make this cool rule where if they dig around your house and find another one, they put you away for 40 years.
You should probably move away from.
But no, but not the 19-year. Obviously, I don't care about any of this stuff. But the kids, they don't understand. So they're 17, they're 16, they're selling drugs for their not father, but like neighbor guy and like whatever. They're in the hood. They never watched a damn educational thing in their life, and they get put away for 40. That's what I don't like. So it's the rules. It's the same with finance. It's the same with the jail. It's the same with everything where there's intense power and liquidity, where you just get the worst end of the deal if you don't know what's going on. Like that is the minimum. And frankly, no one's going to tell you shit. No one's going to tell you that you're going to get in trouble for 40 years when you're like, I made $100,000 this year because this guy next door neighbor is selling drugs. It's like, dude, you're going away to jail 100%. Dude knows it. Like, that's why you're doing it. So I just want everyone to understand, level the playing field with your understanding of the playing field first. And then you can capitalize on all the, people ask me about liquidity every day. I'm like, go to ETHPal and practice. Go do 100 clicks on ETHPal with under $100. Please waste that money. Put it to zero. Understand the little loopholes within V3 and stuff. Anyway, wow. This is the best show. I love this show. I'm so glad we started the show. Sam, did you go live this morning?
I did. I went live this morning.
I saw something pop up, but I didn't see the title. I just saw your name pop up while I was
if you guys want to check that out, or if you guys want to learn more about liquidity, I clearly like liquidity. If you watch the show or listen to the show, there's one person who brings up liquidity practically every single day. That's me, because I really, really like liquidity. And crypto has liquidity that you can be a part of, and you can't be a part of it in legacy. So I talk about it a lot on my channel. If you're curious to learn more about it, if you're curious to check it out, if you're curious to learn about some of the nuances,
education.
Go check it out. Yes. Go just start to learn.
And education. We're learning with the information provided to us on the internet. Frankly, that's all we're doing. But we're excited. But just understand, if you're playing around with these liquidity pools and you have no idea what you're doing, you are about to make somebody's day. Understand that. Like, I wait for someone to, sometimes people make a stupid slip up on liquidity too. Slips that one price up. There's no AMM bots for those earlier cryptos, and you can you're just like, I just sold 50% of my bag for 96% more because I left it out of this pair because this ding dong just pulled all this liquidity. But it's not hard to pay attention to. But again, 90% of people that just passively try and do this stuff will lose everything that they have. If you're passively you can't be passive. You have to at least either be active or just a holder, in my opinion. Like, just be a holder and a staker, or be someone that wants to do a little bit of both. But don't be in this middle ground where you start throwing money around to stuff you don't have 10 or 12 hours studying at least. So we'll get out of here, guys. Football Sunday. Enjoy yourselves. I'll probably be back on. I want to see some crypto news. The Pulse Chain dev talk went on for like 5 hours yesterday. And it was wow. But they talked about the SEC bullshit like back and forth for like 2.5 hours. So I was kind of like checked out for that whole thing.
We can do a recap of it Monday.
And if anyone missed it.
Oh yeah, Bullish was all there.
Yeah,
Bullish,
yeah.
Tell us how the end of it went and everything.
It went pretty good. It ended solid on a good note, on a positive note. And if anyone wants to see the full thing, it was recorded on Twitter, but we also have it on Jim Rat's channel, so you can watch it there as well, the whole thing.
And there's nobody out there wanting to sell big enough bags to care about slippage. That's because they can't, Amish kid. Because if you have $5,000 in Icosa, you ain't selling it on the market, period. That's the reason. When we talk about low liquidity, Amish, we're saying guys aren't going to sell something for $5,000 and eat slippage, so they're just going to wait or slosh it to something else with more liquidity. Because when you can't take your money out via the pool really isn't doing you any favors, right? But unless you have long-term gut feeling, for Zen, for example, I have a feeling that liquidity pool is going to be more dense in the future. That's just my opinion. So I'm not super, but like, I don't know that about Icosa.
So 5,000 Icosa for Ethereum has 5% slippage.
I would never, ever.
That's a lot. That's a lot of slippage.
That's a lot for like your Icosa bag. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're selling like $100,000 for your freaking house payment and you're like, hey, it's a one-time thing. I'm going to take 3.5% on this, really take a nice payday. It's not like that, fam.
It's a small amount.
It's just like, dude, if you want a couple $100, like you can eat like a little slippage. So, but that's exactly what makes the upside. So Sam, remember how I said I liked Icosa because the downside isn't really there because no one can really sell is what I'm kind of figuring out. It's like you can sell, but until someone takes some initiative in that liquidity pool, because clearly they're keeping it open for a reason because they know people won't take initiative of it that quick. But what if somebody will eventually take initiative of that Icosa pool, make it more dense, make it move more steady, and the price will probably be much higher because that'll probably benefit them if they're coming in. And it's important to remember that. It's important to remember that Icosa has a lot of upside, not because of the numbers within the T-share units, but because you can't sell it, fam, for that much money. So you can either slosh it to another asset, which I'm going to be all over those liquidity pairs, right? Those Icosa other ones, if there's not too many people in them, to see people in real time with that Icosa kind of moving it because people are going to look.
There is that upside cap though, right? Because if Icosa goes up too high, then I would go through and I will arb it down relative to the hex. Right? Like if I can make free money by selling hex stakes to Icosa and make a couple $100 each time, I will sit there all day and just make several $100s per thing that I do. Right. So I don't think the I guess is super low liquidity, but at the same time, it's sitting
like
close.
Naturally, I think you're right. Unless someone like makes a play on it and like changes the dynamic somehow, I don't see how. But again, Sam, remember we're all waiting for Ethereum anyway. It's kind of like a big Ethereum waiting game, but like there's big pumps in between. Like some things kind of have like little added like Hedron, for example. You bought the bottom on Hedron, you did pretty good. Then, for example, if you waited like the first 2 weeks, kind of bought a little bottom action there, you did pretty good. But again, it's important to understand we're waiting on Vitalik to do whatever, and I say that because we're waiting on Ethereum to be more bullish from what he's already laid into the world with the triple halving, with the, the merge. We're seeing the dominance of Ethereum. I'm seeing it at least. And then we have Zen crypto, which I'm going to do a bunch of shows on this week. I'm super bullish on Zen. I'm bullish on Zen when I think, and I'm not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only for me. And it's just like Zen Jack was in a Twitter space before this with the founders of MEXC. I'll just leave you with that. And he does that about every morning. And you know what those guys said? They've never seen anything they liked as much as this. And they said, we know you didn't want us to pick it up in the centralized exchanges, but we had no choice, is what they said. We had no choice. There was too much volume. They had to get a part of it. It's a bear market. And then they said, okay, there's synergy here. Like, let's talk. And Jack's willing to have that talk. Where he was wrong. He said no centralized exchanges. And then he's like, he said, I'm not going to push to centralized exchanges, but he had no idea they were going to pick it up like this. They picked it up day one. Day one. MEXC is all over some stuff. And I think it's important to remember. And remember with Ethereum, Zen, that first 100 days, there's a big pocket of liquidity there. There's a big pocket of like loose liquid funds because everyone did that 100-day mark plus. And then by the time everyone figured it out, that was kind of diluted already. So I think it's important to remember this first 100 days can be tricky. Don't put your whole life savings into something in the first 100 days because volatility risk could be upside redonkulous, downside redonkulous. But day 100 to 120, I got my eyes on a buy. And the rate might be way higher, but I would be surprised if there wasn't a 70, 75, 90% dip, something like that. And then I can feel the floor out better and kind of know how this is all looking, but still eat on that 90. But I already have some, right? And we already did our mids. So, but I'm pretty much off hands as far as risk within Zen. Like there's no risk for me. I've spent whatever. If $300 is mad risk, then I'm risk on. But in my opinion, $300, $400 is kind of risk off.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, right, some people that's not the case, but it's just is what it is for where you're at in whatever situation. So I'm in the green for Zen for the rest of my life.
It was like buying Hedron at the bottom of the market before Icosa launched. It doesn't seem like There's a opportunity for this thing to go up. What's going to create demand for this thing? And people were buying, right? Like Bullish was buying through that whole entire time, right? And
The bottom was $136 for $1 billion.
and now it's $6,000 for $1 billion.
Is it $6,000?
It's multiple thousands. I don't know if it's $6,000, but it's.
I remember I did a couple buys on that day. I swapped my Pulse Dogecoin free claim for Hedron. There was like a 4-day bottom. It's 164 days in. And wait, I don't remember.
$800 for $1 billion.
Yeah, and I remember I bought like, I can't remember exactly how much it was. And I don't, I staked some of that, and the ICOSA came out and all of this stuff. But again, I remember being like, dang, I made some money off this. I didn't even put in any money, bro. I love doing it like that. I like to wait for things to like blossom that I just like barely maybe spend $150, $200, $300 on. And then you're like, wow, look, that's efficient. That's called real waiting. That's called real time building liquidity. Hex has a lot of those metrics in it too. Like it does build over time. And I'm excited about Hex as far as volatility, but I don't know which way. But anyway, what a good show. Great to have everyone. Amazing. Enjoy your day. Make sure you study. Make sure you say hi to your parents. Make sure you be nice to everyone. Make sure you work hard and understand that you deserve respect and you should just be a good person. And then you'll have everything you want in this world if you work hard and you be nice to everyone. So don't do drugs, kids. Everyone have an amazing day.
I'll do that
whenever, maybe later I'll be on, but just hit it up. Twitter for both of us. DeFi proof. We're out, guys. Have a good one.
Young folks, you dripping on them motherfucker.
Richard Heart. Richard Heart.
Bought my Hex from the fucking start. .1 in everything we mark. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Heart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Heart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Checking my MetaMask moving. Look at the Hex, he is mooning. Looking at wives they be choosing. Peter is why they be losing. Pull chains out and they'll get me a check. He's gas up and it got me a mess. Remember the times he died collect. Hex I been eating, I'm dying in the best. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Heart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Heart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Richard Heart. Richard Heart.